Let's talk about the lowest hanging fruit. Honestly, I feel the most overlooked, but probably the easiest way to gain income or actually technically save on expenses, which will raise your net operating income. And that is making sure that you can trim the expenses of utilities. Utilities are often a very low hanging fruit because if you're in this market and you're buying from mom and pop shops or perhaps other ownership groups, perhaps weren't as aggressive or dedicated to implementing a business plan and raising the NOI, sometimes those owners would pay for some of the utilities for the tenants. For example, the most common utilities that are paid for tenants by the owner are water, gas, and sewer. And that's often because unless you're buying newer buildings, many times these utilities, water, sewer, and gas, are not separately metered. So we'll buy an apartment complex that every single individual tenant has their own electric meter, but for that building, there's only one meter for water, sewer, gas. And the easiest or the least friction as an owner is to simply say, I'll just pay for the whole bill. How could I possibly figure out who to charge what? I'll just pay for it and write it off as an expense. When we take over a property, obviously during the due diligence period, we see that as a great opportunity because you can recapture that money in one of two ways. You can now start or implement a flat bill back, meaning look at last year's bill. Let's say there's $12,000 and there's 10 units. That means is that $1,200 a piece? I don't know. Regardless, you could do that one of two ways. You could utilize RUBS, which is Ratio Utility Billing System, or you could implement some type of flat fee bill back, meaning every month you're going to just bill the tenant $50 or $25. That's going to help you recapture the cost of that utility. Now, what you'll want to do is you'll want to look at last year's total bill and then divide that out by each tenant. Sometimes owners will say it for a 2-bedroom we'll charge this percentage, for a 1-bedroom we'll charge this percentage, and they'll keep it flat rate. That's a very easy way to say, I know if it's a 1-bed, I'm going to bill them back $50. If it's a 2-bed, I'm going to bill them back $75. That's very easy to understand and certainly easy to implement. If you really want to squeeze out every penny, and this is not predatory by any means, these are human beings paying for their own utilities, you simply utilize something called the RUBS, or Ratio Utility Billing System. And all that is you can use a third party or you can do that in-house through a software, and that literally charges back a different amount every single month that is determined by what that bill is that month. So for example, a bill comes in, it's $9,000, and that system is going to say if you're a 2-bedroom, you're going to pay for 4% of the total bill, and if you're a 1-bedroom, you're going to pay for 2.5% of the bill. And then your tenant receives a bill that month that says you owe this much on your monthly utility bill. That is more real life for the tenant, like most people who have to pay for their own utilities, or that tenant who's already paying their electrical bill. Many times they're used to fluctuating bills and the values of those coming in each month. Now they're just applying that to their water and sewer bill. And the reason that we like to implement that more than the flat rate is that there's a lot less loss for the owner. If you're charging flat rate, what happens if the utility company changes the way they're calculating the overall bill? The flat rate you've already charged everybody may not cover that. In fact, it happened often throughout the Midwest where the cost for gas almost doubled in the course of 12 to 16 months. And so at a flat rate, you're actually losing money until you can change that flat rate every single lease renewal. Where with RUBS, it just fluctuates with whatever the bill is. And that's what we've chosen to do. We didn't change the rent. Now, obviously, we implement a rental increase when we take over a property, but one of the lowest hanging fruits and easiest things to implement right away, perhaps not to shock the entire tenant base, is to simply implement something so that they have to pay for their own utilities, and that's done through RUBS or a flat rate bill back.